department that has a sole mission to focus on our streets and bridges. And just last year, for the first time in 3 decades and longer, frankly, we created a stormwater program whose primary focus are things like this, the bridge. So that program has been in place just a little over a year. And so I want the community to recognize that it takes time to develop a culture, to develop systems. Sure, reports were done by TxDOT, but when nobody's around to read them, and more importantly to react to them, we get things like we have today behind me. So the key thing to focus on and to recognize is we're developing systems, we're developing organization, we're developing protocols. Soon, things like this won't happen. We do have a mayor and council, I should say. Councilman Smith is here with us this morning. He represents his district. They have placed infrastructure as a top priority. With their leadership and approval of the past 4 budgets, over $336 million has been invested in our taxpayer dollars to road work improvements. So that's just a little background. So earlier this week, on Monday, a resident driving across the bridge noticed a hole in the bridge and used our new 311 call number to call it in. So we do have a new call number for the community that may not be aware. So you can dial 311, simple number, or use an app that you can download to report any type of issue, and we want to applaud that resident for doing so. And so right away, our Public Works Department came out to investigate this reported pothole, or probably the resident didn't know it was a sinkhole. And upon excavating and evaluating the hole, that was probably not too big, it was evident that it was a sinkhole caused from erosion below the surface of the road. So the sinkhole is right at the embankment where the bridge is coming over the Oso Creek, and the embankment's here. So there was, I'll talk about that later, but what was holding up the earthwork, or the dirt, but that was sloughing out from erosion from the waters, and eventually compromised the soil under the road to where a pretty significant sinkhole occurred. And I think we know what a sinkhole is. So that happened Monday early in the morning, or mid-morning. Through the day Monday and into Tuesday, our Public Works crews and Stormwater Group attempted to fix the situation. And so with in-house forces, we tried to shore up the embankment below the bridge, and we cut out the hole and we tried to fill it in with select fill, but ultimately the pressure of the road and the trial runs of transportation over it, vehicles over it, was too heavy, and the solution of basically plywood with some fortifying beams just was too fragile to hold up the soil beneath the roadway where the sinkhole was. So by Tuesday, we recognized we're going to have to go to Plan B, and that is call in the big guns, the private sector engineers and contractors who have more resources than we do. And so we did that on Tuesday. So Tuesday brings us into Wednesday. So our engineer on this project in the private sector, Fries and Nichols, one of the best in our community, has done a lot of work for the city, devised a plan on how we can shore up the embankment. So the embankment, if you look at bridges as you go through the community or through the country, you'll notice a lot of bridges have a wall, a retaining wall made out of concrete. This bridge that was built in the 80s did not have that. It had a riprap or an articulated block mat. If anybody has been to the Packery Channel, that's what was here. It was a kind of a crisscross mat that was put down to hold the earthwork in. And then on top of that mat was boulders replaced to kind of hold the soil in. It's an okay construction method, but as we can see, it didn't last, I don't know how many years that is, 40 years, is that 40 years? 20, yeah, 35 years, so it didn't last. And the creek behind me has some pretty significant tidal influences. The Oso Creek ultimately turns into the Oso Bay, ultimately connects into the Corpus Christi Bay, which ultimately connects to the ocean. So the Gulf influences of tidal influences, high tides, northern winds, prevailing northern winds, all can push water back this way, push it upstream actually. And then we have the Barney Davis power plant that has a cooling system using water, and they discharge that water. So you have water flowing this way, heavy water from the discharge point from the creek itself, water coming in this way from the tides. All that caused erosion under the bridge, which ultimately, as I said, led to the demise of soil and the collapse in the roadway. So the fix is to shore up the embankment, and we're not going to go the vertical wall because this bridge is slated to be replaced in 2026, but we're going to expedite that with TxDOT. It's a $20 million reconstruction that's in the works, but let's focus on the fix today. So the fix is to put back a retaining wall of sorts using an asphalt application and boulders, rocks basically. And Ernesto, our Public Works Director, can talk more about it when he presents. So that work was designed on Wednesday. We're still on the timeline. On Wednesday into Thursday. We're here Friday. Thursday, work actually began on the implementation of that design. Site work, so a road has been put down beneath the bridge to get from the side to the point of interest. So we're on the Flower Bluff side of the bridge that has the biggest compromise, but there is issues on the Yorktown side as well, the western side of this bridge here. So the work is going to include shoring up and rebuilding the embankment on the Flower Bluff side, as well as some work has to be done on the rod field or the other side, the mainland side of the bridge. So so that work has begun in terms of site prep, site work, a road's being built. We told the community earlier in the week we thought we could get this thing turned around and opened in 3 days, and that's what the community heard. Our new estimate, though, because of what I just described, is more like 30 days. So the 3 days is out the window, obviously. 30 days is what it's going to take us, and it could take longer, and I want to explain why. Number one, we're focused on safety. Safety of the workers, safety of the community. You can see this extensive enclosure we've had to put here. Even when we had this up this week, we still had residents go around the barricades and try to get across the bridge, and I want to use today also as a chance to remind our community, do not disobey traffic measures. It's against the law and you can be ticketed. And worse yet, you could have yourself an injury or worse. So the safety of the community is number one. Safety of the workers that are going to be doing the work is number two. Safety of our own crews, number three. We're focused on safety. We know convenience is great for a big city like this. We're the 8th largest city. We want to have a convenient transportation system. We're not going to have it right now because safety overrides convenience. We need to safely restore the bridge so that it's safe to drive over. But as we reconstruct it, we want to make sure the community, the contractors are safe. So that to say the 30-day time frame is, it could take longer because things like high tides, tidal influences, rising waters into the work zone, then we can't work that day. And that may happen. You may have a day like today that seems to be beautiful, and you look back and you don't hear any noise and see any contractors. That probably is because the tide is too high, the waters are too rough, and we can't perform the work. So we're hoping 30 days, but there are exceptions if the weather's bad, if it's too cold. We also can only work in the daytime. And for the reason that we're working under the bridge, the work zone is under the bridge. It's in a muddy area. It's in a hazardous area with the water, with the tides. There's no lighting, and we can't put lighting. It's not safe. And the work zone can be treacherous depending on the tidal waves, the height of the water, the velocity of the waves. So the work will be performed in the daytime only. We looked at the nighttime option, and unfortunately we can't progress through the night. It's just not safe. So the contractor, though, our contractor is Anderson Columbia, formerly Haas Anderson. They're local, and they know the region well. Randall Moore is here with us this morning, and I want to thank him for leading his team on this project. So we can work during the daytime, and Randall's agreed to work Saturday, and we'll look at Sunday as well, potentially, to try to expedite this. Look, we know, and I'm here to tell the community, and Councilman Smith's here as well, we know that this is a serious issue. That's why we're here today, and that's why we've developed a communication plan that I'm going to talk to you about. This is a very serious issue, and we know that it is inconveniencing a lot of people. The amount of trips that go across this bridge every day is just under 10,000. So that's a lot. If you want to put it in perspective, on Staples around the Saratoga area, it's about a 20,000 a day trip total there. So This is a pretty busy roadway. We know that road work is being done on other roads now that are being used as detours. So we know that this is an inconvenience to the community. I know it. I don't live here on the bluff, but I know it as a city manager, and we have a team of people that are constantly giving us updates. So our goal is to get it fixed, to eliminate that inconvenience, but that is going to take a little bit of time. So this work is beginning. We will be shoring up the embankments in a very secure way, and then we'll fix the sinkhole, repave that area. We're also going to assess the bridge overall, the road itself. There's potholes, areas of concern. We'll address those as well. There's also, upon further inspection, some of the beams that hold up the bridge have some significant concrete erosion all the way down to the rebar. So we're going to take care of that as well in this effort simultaneously. The prime will bring in a sub to do the work at the same time as the embankment's being shored up. So I'm going to talk about the communication plan, but before we get there, I do want to talk about construction standards. And so this bridge, I'm not an engineer, but you would imagine it would have had a retaining wall instead of an articulated mat block system. Ultimately, that was washed away from tidal influences, storms, and so on. So we at the city council, myself, are focused on better design standards for our infrastructure when it's built by the private sector. That is why on Monday we issued, after working with the development community for over 3 months, we issued new street design standards so that when new streets and bridges are built in our subdivisions by the development community, they're built at a quality that every other Texas city builds them at. And ours have not been that way, to where they fail within a year and then they put the taxpayer on the hook to fix it. And that's not fair and not right. So what we've done is our team with outside help have developed new design standards for our roads and bridges in our community when they're being built by the private sector, so that they last and so that the taxpayer is not put on the hook to pay for them way sooner than what you would expect. Okay, so with that, we're going to turn now to the communication plan. So we appreciate the media being here, and we're focused on getting the story out to the community about the construction fix, the timeline, any updates in the construction timeline. And we appreciate the media covering this. This will be a story that we'll be working on for at least 30 days, maybe a little longer. The city is going to, today, put on our homepage on our website a link or a box to the Mud Bridge project. And we'll be posting, if not daily, several times a week, updates on the construction progress, if there's delays or how we're doing. So that'll be on our website. Events like this that we're broadcasting live right now on our social media outlets will be recorded. We'll have those videos there, so if somebody's working, can't see the update, they'll be able to see it that way. Each week on Wednesday at 10 o'clock, and that could change, but the plan is every Wednesday at 10, Ernie and I will do a briefing like this, most likely at City Hall, to tell the community the update, and we encourage the media to cover it so people can hear the update. And we'll talk about milestones being completed and progress being made and timeline. We're also reaching out to the big partners that are here. We know the community is our biggest partner, and there's a lot of residents that use this bridge, as I mentioned, about 10,000 trips a day. But we have other big institutional partners like the military. We know Waldron Field's right behind you all, right in front of me. Persons may work at NAS, CAD, and use this road to get there. So we know that's a big partner of ours. We have educational institutions, numerous ones where their patrons use this road. That includes Texas A&M Corpus Christi. That includes Del Mar, their brand new Southside campus. That includes CCISD and Flower Bluff ISD. And so we'll be communicating directly with those folks over the next 30 days. And then finally, we have Flower Bluff Citizen Council, which is a great organization, grassroots organizations that helps to keep the Flower Bluff community informed. I spoke with Shirley Thornton last night, and we appreciate Flo East being here as well this morning. And we'll be communicating directly with them on our progress. So we're pulling out all the stops to make sure the community knows what's happening here. We want the community to know a couple things in summary. One, we care. We know this is an inconvenience. we're focused on the fix, not so much what happened. We know decades of neglect lead us to this point today. We know that, but we're focused on the fix. We have a great partners that are working with the city crews, and so we want to highlight and thank Fries and Nichols for their design services and Anderson Columbia for the construction work that will take place to fix this bridge. So with that, I'm going to turn the microphone over to Ernesto De La Garza, our Public Works Director. He's been on the job about 30 days, and when we hired him, we said, Ernie, this is going to be a pretty tough job, but over these past 30 days, we didn't even have to tell him because he's seen it firsthand. So I want to have him come up. You'll see him quite a bit with me each week as we provide updates to the community. Ernie's our Public Works Director. He's an engineer as well, and he knows pavement very well and knows how to lead teams. And so we're happy he's joined our organization. And with that, I'm going to have him say a few words.
Thank you. So I'd just like to reiterate, the 311 program, it does work. We do depend on it very much to get the information. Our area is from Cal Island to Padre Island, so we do have a lot of information that we use there to understand some of the failures going on with our infrastructure throughout the city, and so we do use that information daily. Since I started with the city, November 7, we've had hundreds of 311 work orders come in and many sinkholes. So when we say decades of neglect, it's a true story. Our infrastructure is in fact in need of much repair. We do have the systems in place to begin to be proactive. That's what we're working on, is being proactive, working with our new stormwater section of the Public Works. We're going to get ahead of this problem and start looking at all the bridges and making sure that we do have proactive maintenance in place for those. In addition to that, I want to thank again our contractor, Haas Anderson, Mr. Randall Moore, and we go back, we work together when I was a director of construction at TxDOT, and then also Shane Torno with Fries and Nichols, our structural engineer, providing the expertise to say, this is a good approach before we make the decision to open the traffic out to the bridge. And so I want to thank them for turning around the response time really quickly and giving us the resources that we need to get started sooner than later. Our goal is concurrent work zones, trying to get most of the work done at the same time on both sides. But as Mr. Zanoni has just mentioned, we are dependent on the tide and the accessibility of the project and the work zone. But then again, I just want to reiterate the importance of safety, not just in the work zone, but the safety of making decisions about when it's safe to open this bridge up to traffic. So I want to thank you all again for coming out, and I'll give it back to Mr. Zanoni to close it out.
Okay, great. Thank you. So, Councilman, did you want to say Councilman Smith, who's represented this district for 6 years or longer, Councilman, 6 years, is going to come to the podium next. And I did want to, come on up, Councilman, I did want to reiterate that we are focused on safety, and that's a great message that Ernesto reiterated. We're only going to open the bridge when we know it's safe, and we're going to work safe. And we're going to keep the community informed. We want to err on the side of over-communicating. And that's what we're going to do with our work plan that I mentioned. So, Councilman Smith, come on up.
Thank you all on there, everybody, for showing up. We know this is a big issue, but I want to talk a little bit about the longer-term plan the City Manager Zanoni had discussed. And number one, we truly have the A-team working on this with it. So Anderson, Columbia, they have done all kinds of coastal work, similar type work. You couldn't have a more experienced contractor doing this. The Fries and Nichols team on there, same thing. They turned around with the design on there in a matter of a day or two of a very good design. But looking at the longer term, we all know the importance of Yorktown and Mud Bridge. City Council approved just several months ago, with help from our friends at TxDOT, the replacement of this bridge. And when it came before council, there was this bridge and one other on Ocean Drive. This bridge was slated for 27, Ocean Drive was for 26. We said we need to move Mud Bridge ahead. We know the traffic issues on there with it, so we did that. Now, City Manager Zanoni is going to try to even accelerate that schedule even more. So it's an awareness of all of our needs on there. Another thing, thank the citizens of Corpus Christi. You approved a bond project that widens Yorktown to the bridge. Then we will be widening this bridge and expect to see in our next bonds on there taking Yorktown ahead. We're solving the issues of the past. We're going to get a good, safe fix on this bridge, and you will continue to see this whole area improving with it. And the best thing about that, I'm ending my public service on there, but the District 4 replacement, Dan Stuckley, he lives just right down the road. So I'm sure that he has got City Manager Zanoni's number, and it's going to be looked on with multiple eyes. So thank you, staff, for doing this, Ernie, with it, jumping on this, realizing the importance of this bridge to this community, getting it back open quickly and safely.
Thank you, Councilman. And just to add a little bit more to the bond program, so the voters approved in the 2020 bond program the design of Yorktown from Rodfield to Mudbridge, and that design is nearly complete. In the 2022 bond program that was just passed by voters in November with a substantial yes, the construction dollars, $20 million was included in that bond. So soon we're going to be putting out for bid the reconstruction of Yorktown from Rodfield to Mudbridge. We know it's under capacity today, or it's not an appropriate road for the amount of capacity that's on it. And so with the approval of this bond program, because we already have the design done, we don't have to wait. It's shovel ready. Construction is going to start soon. We have to time it though with another road project that will give some relief for the neighborhoods off of Yorktown, so they'll have an alternate way out when this is under construction. So, as Councilman Smith said, from Rodfield through Mudbridge will be all brand new in the coming years, and we're going to work with TxDOT. And Ernesto used to work with TxDOT, so he still has a lot of good connections there. We're going to work with TxDOT to see if we can advance the funding and the construction of the bridge behind me, the replacement. So with that, Councilman Smith and Ernesto, I want to thank you all for being here, and thank you to our design and construction team members as well. We'll be here if the media has any questions after this briefing, unless there's any questions now that anyone has. Okay, very good. So we'll be available for questions as we break up here. And our next briefing then will be next Wednesday at 10 o'clock, most likely at City Hall. Ernesto, myself, and Neiman Young, our Assistant City Manager overseeing Public Works and Engineering, will be available that day as well. So thank you. Thank you for being here.